What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with the overall market, what you should be watching for as time goes on. I'm also going to be talking about some very, very important developments on the charts so far and how things are looking for Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. But before I break anything down all this information, before I talk about the seasonality of SPY and what it could be suggesting alongside for Tesla and all these other tickers, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. Now, this offer ends in just 2 days, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's break down what's going on with the market for now. So looking at the market, I just wanted to mention that we had another sell-off on SPY, and we have confirmed this head and shoulders like pattern, but there's no confirmed like break to the downside yet. We just confirmed the two right shoulders in the head, so we're waiting for one more confirmation break below our 50 EMA, and then this I would say below this 430 area, and that's going to be establishing a more bearish structure to lead to more downside. But one thing I want to mention about this downside is the timing of it, which is not necessarily all that surprising. And let me kind of like elaborate what I mean by that. So one of the things I mentioned on this channel is seasonality, and you will notice that what tends to happen to the markets is we tend to see very sideways or even bearish price action in August, and that's what happened this year. I can even pull up the chart and show you, right? August was right here. The market was a little sideways from the start. Then we started to sell off a little bit, remain sideways before getting an aggressive end of August. Then we saw a little pump going into like September before the market continued to sell off very aggressively as September continued, right? And then that's very similar to this, where we have September, we trade sideways, then we start selling off in September. Then October comes, we see the market kind of like drop really hard or even bottom. Then we get one pump for like the second, maybe like the after the first few days of October, going into like the end of the second week of October. We tend to see the market pump historically. And if you look at how the market has performed, October is right here. The market kind of dropped first, then started pumping. That's what tends to happen in October before another aggressive sell-off during the third week of October. And then what tends to happen is the market either makes a new low, and then we start pumping for November/December, or we make a higher low relative to before, and then we start to see a massive pump for November/December. That's what happens historically. And so far, if you actually take a look at SPY, we're seeing something very similar kind of developing on this chart. And this is what seasonality is suggesting. So for next week, there could be more downside coming. I just wanted to call out the fact that we have a head and shoulders on SPY, and the 4-hour and also the daily are starting to look a bit more bearish. If you look at the daily on SPY, it's looking a little weaker, and the 4-hour is also looking weaker. So with this head and shoulders like pattern on the 4-hour time frame, if we break and hold below 430, we could likely see even more downside all the way down to this 427 imbalance. So like right here, 427, and below that we have like 425, like in the 425s. And below that, I mean, it could even come all the way down for the full measured 420 again, but I'm not going to count on that just yet. It's looking a bit more bearish, right? Especially if we end up breaking below 430. 430 is going to be key support going into next week. So yes, it looks weaker, but seasonality suggests that this is what should have happened anyways. So the market could see a little bit more sideways slash downside price action over the next couple of trading days. But then do not forget what the trend is still suggesting, right? Even though that this was expected, there could be major upside still coming for like November/December. I would not rule that out, and I still believe that's very probable because of the monthly on SPY. If you look at SPY so far, it still looks like a cup and handle on the monthly, right? We were pumping so hard between March going into like the end of July. We just pumped and pumped and pumped and pumped like crazy. Especially June and July were very bullish months. So now we're getting a very healthy pullback. This is not like a crash or anything like that. There's no true confirmation of that yet or as of right now. So it doesn't make sense to be calling for a crash to new lows if we're not even close to like 340 right now, right? We're still almost $100 away from that, 100 points away. So looks to me more like a cup and handle is forming, and we're following seasonality. And seasonality is suggesting that the downside we're seeing during this time of year is normal, and there's going to likely be upside for November/December. That is what it's suggesting so far. And based off our logic, I mean, so far earnings have not been that bad. Earnings are very manipulated, so don't necessarily just like, you know, take everything way too seriously and just try to like trivialize all the issues that are still emerging right now with the high interest rate hike environment. But just know that for the like longer term, the market is still bullish. For the short term, the market could still, downtrend a little bit for the time being. And that's why I want to now talk about Tesla. Tesla also happens to have a head and shoulders like pattern. We had a bearish divergence top and starting to come down. We have an imbalance down here at 248. If that brings Tesla down there, it could come to even lower levels way down here, and that's worth noting. So it's going to be very important to talk about these levels and how this could end up playing out. And then if you want to look at a couple of other tickers, I'm going to be very brief with the rest of them because I'm going to talk in more details about them going into tomorrow. Aapl looking a bit more bearish. If you look at the 4-hour chart, it's starting to curl. We're actually broke below 180. We're going to be watching this 200 EMA at 177 as support. If we lose that, Apple's coming all the way down to the 175 area, which could drag the market even lower. So Apple's looking a bit weaker. I want everyone to be very careful when trying to trade it. Same thing with the QQQ, looking a bit weaker. I mean, if you look at the QQQ, we have a head and shoulders top that developed here too. We have like a left shoulder here, a head and a right shoulder that formed, and we're starting to sink even lower. So you're going to be watching that 363 support. If we lose that, we can come all the way down to 361 as the triple Q is looking a bit weaker. Nvidia, same thing, looking a little weaker. We're holding our 4-hour 50 EMA right now as support, this 453 zone. If we lose that and 452.5 to 453, that important zone, Nvidia is going to be sinking down to 450 quite quickly. And then below that, we have 443 or so coming. That could be very, very significant. So we're going to be watching these levels very carefully. Nvidia is looking a little weaker, guys. So be very, very careful if you're trying to trade this. Now we should see like a little counter trend bounce attempt as soon as Monday, possibly before this thing continues to sell off. If this trend remains as it is, which is likely going to be the case, we also have like a head and shoulders top like pattern up here that could lead to even more downside. So I just want everyone to be very careful on Nvidia. We could see a very, very temporary pullback, and with it looking as weak as it is, it's very important to be open-minded for what's about to happen in the future as well. So that's pretty much it for Nvidia and these other stocks. I just want to mention that Microsoft is also looking weaker. We were calling this yesterday. Microsoft coming down to about 325. We're not there yet, but we came down to 327. So I do believe 325 is on the table, which is where we happen to have this bearish trend that could take us there towards the 200 EMA. AMD is looking a bit more bearish. If you look at the trend right now, we have this important zone around 102. If we break and hold below 105, I could see 102 coming. The VIX is once again pumping very hard. There is a potential bearish divergence here, so it might actually cool off a little bit. Market may try to like bounce a little bit on Monday before this thing continues to find a higher low and it bounces too. So this tells me that the stock market may try to bounce a little bit on Monday before it continues lower, which is still very possible. The dollar is looking like it's trying to break this trend to the upside. It's starting to form a rising wedge, so it could continue a little higher as the market continues to slow before we see anything change. And then just for a couple of others, just to make this as fast as possible since it's a Friday, Google's looking a bit weaker. We've got this nice rejection, nice head and shoulders top. This imbalance could take us all the way down towards 135. But first, we have to break below the 50 EMA around 138. If that breaks, we're going to be watching 135. Then for Amazon, if it breaks 150, I think we closed just barely above it. This 50 EMA. I mean, right now we could see Amazon sink towards, I would say, right here. I'm going to be watching this 127.25 area. That's going to be the next level to watch if we break below 129. Anyways, that's pretty much it for the video. I want to just keep this very short, but just let you all know that yes, although the market is looking bearish, although there could be more downside coming with the head and shoulders patterns developing on SPY and the QQQ, although that's the case, right? Tesla has earnings next week, which could change things. We'll see what happens with that, but it's going to be in the middle of the week. And also, don't forget, seasonality still suggests that not only was this expected, but in the future, something could change big time because the market's been on a downtrend since August started. The market's been downtrending since. So we will see what happens in the future. We will see where the market tries to bottom, possibly. Excuse me. I'm going to talk more about SPY in a lot more detail with more technical analysis tomorrow because I want to break down something else that's very important from different perspectives. All right. So thank you all so much for listening. Have an absolutely spectacular day. I'll talk more about the markets tomorrow, and I'll see you guys very, very soon. Thank you. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you, and peace out.